He is the blogger to the Nation and a Daily Telegraph columnist, and Tim Blair joins me from the Wimmera area of Victoria. Good to talk to you again, Tim. You won't have been surprised by today's news that the great promises from Chris Bowen and others for Labor to deliver this nirvana where everybody wants to buy an electric guitar, electric guitar,
That'd be better.
That would be better. They work. They've actually been a success. An electric car is just way below all their targets. They're not going to get anywhere near it.
Remember, 18th century France? I don't mean to call attention to your age, Chris, but, it was quite a while ago. And, it gave rise to various claims that, people should eat cake if they couldn't afford bread. And more recently, we've had, sometimes very fairly, Liberal and Coalition members giving the impression that they don't really understand how common working Australians get by on an average wage. And now we've got Chris Bowen, meant to be a representative of the Labor Party, trying to push everyone into electric cars, which, A, are really hard to buy. They're expensive. B, don't do what normal Australians want them to do. And C, reflect very poorly on this government as a whole in terms of where they think we are. They want to increase things like unemployment benefits. Maybe that's a good idea. But at the same time, they don't recognise that we don't have enough money to buy these damn stupid bark buggies.
The thing is, though, Tim, if we don't meet these targets of 90% of all vehicle sales being electric, he's going to destroy the planet, isn't he? His whole plan to save the planet is selling all these electric cars. So he's going to cook us?
Yeah, I know. It's a lot on a bloke's shoulders, isn't it? The fate of the world. Unless you go in and buy the new electric Hyundai or something like that we're all going to perish in a blazing, molten hell. I don't know how the guy sleeps at night, really. I mean, that's really tense-making. But, it's not going to happen. So it's not going to... We can't keep Australia going as we've done for the last 200 years without continuing to progress in a sensible way, and that way is not towards electric vehicles.
Yeah, this is the whole point about it. Whenever you hear these promises, even net zero by 2050 or whatever, it simply won't happen. Anybody with a brain who looks at the facts, it won't happen. The same as soon as you made these electric vehicle promises and targets, you knew it wouldn't happen, but as soon as you express scepticism, they call you a climate denier. Have a look at Chris Bowen spruiking this stuff back in April.
This is ultimately all about giving Australians better choices of cars which are better for the climate and better to drive and more cost efficient. A petrol vehicle on average costs around $2,400 a year to drive. An electric vehicle costs around $400 a year to drive.
Yeah, better choices. We'll make you drive an electric car or you'll have to walk. That's what he wants.
Yeah, notice he uses the word better instead of greater. It's not a wider range. It's a narrower range of choices, but they're better. That's the important thing from his point of view. He's established this. The guy doesn't know anything about cars. He barely knows how to drive them, as we saw from his little skip around Parliament House in an electric vehicle. And he's in charge of our automotive future. This bunny? Seriously?
Yeah, it's frightening. And guess what? A woman by the name of Belinda Cleary drove an electric vehicle from Sydney to Melbourne and back. A good test for how all this works out. And not only did it take her longer, of course, an extra 3 hours to hang around and charge it, but it also cost her more. The electricity stops cost her $210 as opposed to $140 it would have been in petrol. I mean, it's losing on every front.
I love these stories. There's quite a genre of them now. Jane Caro, the popular ABC personality, drove her electric car to Canberra a few months ago and encountered various problems. They're always hilarious tales because unless you're really embedded in the EV culture and you really know what's going on and you're familiar with how your apps work, because you've got to use apps instead of pulling up to a petrol pump. Everything is very complicated and otherworldly and strange. And it always works out just too difficult to be bothered with. And, you just want to drive somewhere, man. You just want to drive. That's it.
The best part of this story is when she's got the app to charge her car, but she's got no Vodafone signal, and she needs Vodafone to charge her car. So she finds a way around it. She hacks into the Macca's Wi-Fi to charge her car. So you charge your car and get some fries with that.
There was a case last week, I think, when the great Optus outage happened. People found that it somehow influenced. They couldn't jazz up their electric vehicles. Optus took them off the roads.
It's extraordinary. I tell you, her trip actually, Sydney-Melbourne, sounded a lot better than I thought it would be. Because if I was driving Sydney-Melbourne, I'd probably, stop a couple of times for half an hour. So it was only an extra 2 hours, I suppose. But the extra cost blew me away. I want to talk to you about if we don't meet these, according to their logic and their rhetoric, if we don't meet these ridiculous electric vehicle and renewable energy targets, the planet will be in strife. We'll all boil. And the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, has highlighted that again with another ridiculous claim.
Present trends are racing our planet down a dead-end 3-degree temperature rise. In short, the report shows that the emissions gap is more like an emissions canyon. A canyon littered with broken promises, broken lives, and broken records.
Yeah, you remember last time I told you it was worse and we're going to hell. Then I said we were boiling. Well, now I'm saying a couple of months later it's even worse than that.
If you look at aerial pictures of a lot of places around China, the canyon that Mr. Guterres is talking about is littered with broken EVs. There's a lot of them that just in a tip. I noticed there was one other expert quoted in recent reports said that there's not a single person on Earth who hasn't been touched by climate change. Well, me, no. The weather's hot sometimes, cold sometimes.
Yeah.
Things grow, leaves fall. It's been the same for at least the 58 years I've been around.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it changing that much in the future.
Yeah, indeed. I don't think there's a person in the country who hasn't been touched by climate change policy, though. They just have to look at their electricity bills.
That's exactly the point. That is exactly the point, yes.
Thanks for joining us, Tim. Love your work. Tim Blair there. Read him via the Daily Telegraph website.